We are live again. Today I want to talk about be real you, be free and explosive. I'm live on Facebook, but I'm going to share this video on YouTube and Twitter afterward, but I'm live on Facebook right now. So I'm going to talk about and explain how to be original, how to be yourself. What does it mean to be you? To be you means that don't imitate anybody at all. Not even Jesus Christ himself. You shouldn't imitate Jesus Christ. You can use Jesus Christ as your example, but you shouldn't imitate, because you cannot do whatever Jesus Christ said. Although he said you can do things greater than me, but who knows? What does it mean? The pastors today think not spiritually, they think by flesh. So today I'm not do greater thing than me. Today's topic is about originality, being yourself, and be free and explosive. When you think outside of the box, don't put yourself inside of the box. Even you have box or not, don't be inside of the box. Think outside of the box. If you want to choose a direction for your life, you have to ask. Because the kind of question that you ask is very important. If you ask a pastor for your direction, he may point you to a certain direction for sure, because you asked him, and that direction maybe it's wrong direction. So some leader push you to the unhealthy path. Sometimes there is unhealthy push. Sometimes there is healthy push. So you have to be careful about what you choose. You have sometimes knowledge of higher power, but knowledge is different from action. When you want to do it in a right way. Just think, just do it. No, just do it in case of just do something. No, when you want to just do it in a right way. Make it right. Act upon knowledge that you have. You can believe or you can believe in God. So believe in God and choose your direction. Sometimes they told you do this, don't do this. So many people can tell you do this, don't do this, but you have to think for yourself. I have a special guest today. I bring up the video that I already recorded video, and I bring up that video that you can listen to her and learn, because every guest that I invite, they are professional. So I told you before that it's boring that hear from me only. I brought and invited a lot of guests. There is a line of guests I prepared for you. They are all professional, and we can learn from them. In the next month, I have a lot of guests for you. And next week, I'm going to talk myself. There is an inspiration comes from above, and I prepared a message for next week. It's in my heart. But today, let's hear from a professional, Corey Mcdonald. Let me bring her up. Now we have Corey McDonald with us. We are going to discuss about different things. She is author, art therapist, and speaker. Welcome, Corey, to my show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be on your show. Thanks, Dr. Moshe.
Let's start with today. What is special about today?
Oh, I love that question. That's such an important question. In fact, I wake up every day. I kind of put that question out there before I even leave my bed. I ask life, all of life. For you, you're speaking with God. I sometimes phrase it as the creative intelligence, all one and the same. I ask, wow, what are we going to create today? What is today? I mean, we all have plans for the day, but I've learned from life and from just the wisdom of life that we can hold our plans loosely because then we invite something new to come through and into the plans. So today was one of those days where I just wondered what's going to happen. And I thought I was going to spend the day writing, but it turned out that I had a response from last night I did a workshop online in Zoom. And so one of the workshop attendees wanted to understand more and spend more time talking about what happened within her, the changes. So it started like that. And then I noticed, wow, the rain stopped here in Belgium, which doesn't happen all the time in the spring. So I just thought, oh, I can put the writing aside and grab my dog. And I could really sense that I needed to get in the forest because when we're out in nature, often we get a lot of information coming to us. And then after that, I started to write. And it's true, I had a lot more flow and more to write about, having that interaction with that workshop attendee and then that time in nature. What a great question. Thank you.
So you talk about always being yourself. What does it mean to be yourself?
Oh, that's important. That's the most important thing, because I lived many years not knowing what that and even understanding what that meant to be myself. Who am I? Who am I? We can be so fooled thinking that we are this costume, this personality running around, and ever-changing personality, growing up, becoming an adult, deciding I believe in this, I don't believe in this, I like blue, I don't like yellow. We can get caught up in the outer person, and that's a part of us, but it isn't the essence of us. And so who am I, and how can I grow to love myself is the biggest quest, is to understand the self. Joseph Campbell, Jungian, the famous writer, he said it's the hero's journey or heroine's journey to go and to uncover this answer. And so for many years, I just spent a lot of time disconnected with the deepest part of who I am. And I had a lot of struggle in my life. I had anxiety and I had depressions and I had a lot of just anger that I couldn't process because I didn't know how to go inside and find who is in there, what's in there. And it wasn't until I had a life-changing moment when I was in my early 30s, and that really transformed everything. Actually, it was late 30s, because it was the 10th year anniversary now of when it was the Japanese earthquake, and I was caught underground in a train, and it was like the most intense moment of my life, because in that situation you're being thrown around and you're thinking and I understood enough Japanese to understand what was being said, that this is the big one. And we were underground for many hours. And in that time, which should have been the most, I mean, it was the most destructive time of for many, many people's lives. It also destroyed for me this false self I had built on the outside. Because when you're stuck underground, you're shaking like that, and you don't know where is your children, where is your husband, what is going on outside, what you've never been in this situation. Two things can happen. You can either go into panic and go outwardly, or you can come inwardly. And maybe it's because also collectively the Japanese culture is very Zen, quiet. Nobody was in panic. Everybody just accepts that this is a land where there are earthquakes. We were expecting a big one. There was this kind of stoicism. And so I went inside for the first time in my life. I never went inside. And when I say went inside, it means turned my focus to the quietest part of me. And in there, I found deep, deep peace. I can't really give it words. I try to give it words in my book when I describe it. If I had to give words that point to it, it was like a huge, powerful holding of love. And it was remarkable to feel so complete in the midst of a big scene that was all over the place. But for me, where I was in my journey, my hero's journey, it was exactly, I was asking, what is this life? Like, who am I? It was the answer that I needed. I found it in the midst of a mess. But to me, that earthquake was kind of like a metaphor for my life, because it was a mess at that time. And when I came out of there, I made a promise. I suddenly realized, oh my gosh, there is definitely a higher power. I had thrown all those ideas aside after being very hurt by the community that I had grown up with in the church, when I had sensed something was wrong and I had questioned things, and I got quite ousted. So I threw everything away. But no, that love, it has a hold on you. The power of that higher power it is who we are. So you can't throw it away. You can believe you have, but life will become very hard. And then when you connect with it again, things started to flow in an upward spiral. So those depressions started to move, totally leave my life. And I discovered, I just made this promise, like, if I get out of this earthquake, I will go to the shelters and I will help. All I knew was to use art to help the heart. And I wasn't even trained at the time, but something in me spoke that. I made a promise to my higher power. I said, I will go. And you know what? I went and I went a few times, and I learned so much. And I eventually not just got trained in art therapy, but I healed a lot of my pain through art therapy. So, yeah.
That's so great, because I think every one of us have some moment that it's aha moment that we realize there is something bigger than us. Because
Yes.
I moved to Canada almost 20 years ago. I came from Iran and I immigrated to Canada, and I live in Canada right now. And that was a changing life moment that I found the truth about God. So
amazing.
yeah, I went through a lot of difficulty. I went through depression and all that, but
yes,
I found the truth. I know how important it is to find a place to connect it with higher power. Yes, that's true.
I hear you completely. And I'm sorry you walk through hard times, but then I'm not, because like me, I'm not sorry. I love all of my story now. I used to feel badly about the struggle, you know. We need that. I mean, you watch nature, like right now I'm looking out my window and it's so beautiful because I grew up in Canada. So I'm used to seeing the 4 seasons. But for the past 7 years, life has had us in Thailand and then Dubai. So I didn't see the 4 seasons for a while. So now I'm watching in the forest, I'm watching like trees, like little buds struggling, fighting to come out, you know. It's like there's a push. It's like an egg, you know, the bird has to really push, crack that egg open. And I think of that quote by Graham Greene from The Destructors, that destruction, after all, is a form of creation. the things that seem to be breaking us, if we can just feel into them and lean into them, not run away from them. I spent many years running away from them. I didn't know how to use them, how to own them, and how to, like you said, find our higher power, find that God is there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can change, and we can discover things about ourselves we never saw before. I can imagine in the past 20 years, you being in a new country,
Mm-hmm.
arriving, going through that struggle, coming out the other side. I can imagine you have so many new parts of you that grew out of that time.
Yeah, that's true.
You're a writer, and you're helping people write books,
Yes,
aren't you?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to write my life story. It's called Journey to the Mountaintop, because it is a journey actually to the mountain, because I fought hard. Even right now, I'm fighting
Yes.
because I have difficulty right now, different kind of difficulties, but I grow, I stretch in any way I could to find more ways to help people. And I got, after it was last year, at last I got my doctorate. So it was so long journey that I had to pass.
Oh, I'm just honor you for doing your journey. And I really like what you say. Now there's new struggles. Now there's
Yeah.
new challenges. You're right. It's not that we live a life with no challenge. There's no end, because that's how we expand. We need to push up against something. It's like I started to do exercise again. Oh my gosh,
Oh.
Dr. Moshan, I have not exercised with weights for a long time, because I like to just take yoga or the trees. But since we moved here to Belgium, this house is quite fun, and it's got this space where I have 2 teenage boys at home and my husband. My daughter's back in Canada. She just started UBC, but I'm surrounded by men because my boys are now bigger than me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm 181 centimeters. I mean, these are big
Mm.
boys. So they're all doing fitness for basketball. And suddenly something in my heart felt like, I used to do that when I was in my 30s. I'm going to try again. I'm almost 50. Maybe I try again. So I've been pushing these weights and it feels so good, but it hurts for a while because it has to break the muscle to build the muscle, right? So I agree with what you say. We're going to always have these things that are going to push us a bit, but we now have the wisdom, because you've gone through the mountaintop. You don't get shy about those things. You don't run away from them, because you know you can do it. You can build that resilience, and we can go higher and wider than we ever imagined about ourselves. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's true. Because the gyms here was closed because of Corona, COVID-19. I was so depressed that I cannot go to gym and exercise. So.
Yeah, that's why my boys said, we're building one in the garage, Mom, or the basement here. They call it the cellar. Yeah, it's true. I think we're all also sharing that still. And we're having COVID fatigue now, because still it's 1 year on now, right? And they're still closing down and things are still not resolved. And so it's a long time. And we share energy. I mean, ultimately, at the smallest form, we're energy, we're light and information. So we can be feeling strong in ourselves, but then we go out in a group, or we go out, or we're just living in a collective. And if the mood is really low, we can catch that stream of energy and it can take us down. So we have to be really aware that, taking care of ourselves and doing the things that feel really good for our whole system. That's why I ended up walking with my dog. I thought, there's a little break in rain and the sun is out. I know the sun is so good for my mood. I just knew I have to get out there and go, but because like you, I got to watch that I don't get depressed, from a low mood from that. Yeah.
So how can we find our purpose in life? How can we choose the direction that we go?
This is I teach this to people with simple crayons, but it looks simple what I'm teaching, but it's actually answering this very question. So when I'm with people, I am inviting them to, I always have crayons near me, Dr. Moshan, because I use art, simple art making, like we did when we were children. I'm not talking about art like Picasso. I'm talking about just letting our energy, our emotions, which are energy and motion, flow on the page. So then when they come out of us, we can look at them. Like here's a drawing of different things.
Oh,
Sometimes we're feeling really prickly, or sometimes we feel so busy. Like sometimes we don't really know what's going on, like that.
oh yeah.
And sometimes we're just wandering around. We have all different ways that we can just put how we're feeling on a page. And when it's on a page, it's still us, but we can see ourselves from another angle. And then we can get information. And if we see something that's like, ooh, we don't have to run away from it. We can just sit with it. And like Rumi, the poet, talks about this in the guest house. Each one is like a guest. Each emotion is a guest. And we don't have to shy away from our whole self. So when we start to do things like this, people say, but Corey, how do I know what color to choose? Like, how do I know how do I start? Because it's really a different way to express. So I will tell people, take all your colors and put them in front of you. Like, imagine you're like 5 years old and your auntie takes you to the candy store because mommy will say, no, don't eat that. It's bad. But auntie will spoil you. So she'll say, okay, take whatever one you want. When we make art like this for the healing art, we do it like that. Right now, my eyes just today is sticking on that orange. So I would grab orange. Then I'd start to play with orange. And then when orange is finished, like a child, I get bored, throw it aside. Then what's the next color? And the next color. This seems like it's a fun, playful way. And this is how you start to feel your own creative expression. And who I choose today, the colors I choose today, they might change tomorrow or in an hour, but it doesn't matter. We just live in the moment. Mm-hmm. But this is also a hint to answer your question. How do we know our purpose? Mm-hmm. How do we know our purpose is because we start to listen and we start to notice, what am I grabbing towards? What am I pulled towards? Like we talk about in art therapy training, there are certain things that are like a magnet. We call them attractors. So, certain brush I want to take, certain color. Maybe I want to hold my paper. I want to take my paper and sit on the floor, and play on the floor. Maybe I want to hold it this way or this way. When we start to do what we really want from our heart, mm-hmm. and we start to do that in the art, then it will make a bridge into our life. Mm-hmm. See, because when we were young, so many people told us how we should live. Mm-hmm. We had parents, we had teachers, we had people. I went to a very strict church. We had lots of rules, but we were little kids and we had we were really aware of our heart could guide us, like which way to go. The center of who our essence, I told you that I found in the earthquake, it knew. But then, bless our parents, my parents also come from immigrant family. They came and they had a lot of fear because a lot of people took advantage of my grandparents when they started the farm. They didn't understand English. So they kind of felt like nervous because sometimes people would charge them more or, you know what I mean? These sort of games,
Yes,
and so, so, these games and, so this shapes them. So they became they had certain way of leading my mom, teaching so then she didn't know any different. She just taught that on me. No, don't trust. So we absorb this like a sponge when we're little. So then we start to realize, like now I realize, I spent many of my years, I was hiding from people. I didn't know. I was just my download, my conditioning. But then as I started to wake up to my higher power, to my higher purpose, I realized, wow, I have a real gift to teach and to explain. And I have a voice that can really help people to learn and grow and feel loved and to not feel judged. I'm supposed to do this. And how did I know that? I started to do things that felt good. Like when I told you today, I had a plan to do X, Y, Z, but I said, no, I'm going to the nature. I know what works for my system.
Mm-hmm.
And as I do those things, so when I'm in nature, then I hear like information, I can get
Mm-hmm.
information. Oh, you should contact this person, this person. And you start to really trust your whole self, because all of life is supporting us if we're doing the things that feel right and good and they help other people. I'm not talking, I say to be childlike, not childish. Childish is me, me, me. I want, I want, I want, and not thinking about anyone else, having a childlike is being in your heart. It's being open. It's being curious, and it's being in wonder, knowing that life is wonderful. So it's expecting things to be like that. So then you go towards those things. And when I go towards those things, then I discover more and more about myself. At first, I thought I'm only doing art this way. I had no idea I was going to write a book, Dr. Moshe. But then, it just unravels. So your purpose, it's kind of like, it's sort of like something you have to go, and step by step it'll open. But the key for everybody that's the same is our souls came here for joy.
Mm-hmm.
We came here to rise, because when we are joy and light, they can measure it now. We're a higher vibration, and that means more people can see the light, so more people can learn and more people can rise together without even saying anything, just by being the joyful soul you are. So as I do that very well for myself, I'm also a blessing unto people around me. Just as you came up your mountain. When you came up the mountain, people could see you and now look at, I saw you're helping people write their books. Like, this is such a blessing. People's stories need to be heard. And I know you're doing many more things than that, but that's just something that I just thought, wow, it's amazing. So look at how, and you have so many things to give because you struggled in your journey. So you learn, and all of that turns into wisdom.
Yeah.
Instead of it being struggle anymore, no, you have a wisdom and people can receive it from you because they saw you did the work, So this is our purpose, to do what lights us up.
And that's true. I can relate to it because in general, I wanted to help people and impact other people's life, but I didn't know how. So I started with social workers. So I went to college that 19 years ago when I came to Canada. I started social work. So I thought I can help people with that. And I went forward, and as you said, I stepped forward and I said, no, I can do something else. So I went to acting school. I learned how to produce film.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So I thought people love films and they can learn a lot about film. So after finishing that film school, so because industry is so hard to enter, so I thought, so I have to do something else. So I learned a lot about writing, and I don't use crayon, but I use putting all pieces together. I research. I put all the things from it here and there and write a book.
Like a map.
Yeah.
I can imagine you putting like a piece of, like a puzzle.
Yeah, that's true. So,
fantastic.
Yeah, and now how I express myself, I create short video to express myself. That makes me feel good and informational and all that. So it's
so gorgeous. See, and nothing is lost, even though, okay, I'm not going to take the acting and film this way, but look at how life says, that's okay, Moshe. We're going to use it this way.
Yeah.
And that's it. Sometimes, and that's the thing. It's like you just do something because it feels good. And then all of a sudden, well, even going to art therapy school, I did not know that I would do that, but I kept actually pushing it away because in art school, I did study art in art school, and I didn't think I would. I just was kind of good at everything in university, one of this kind of minds. Everything is easy. Well, and I work hard. But at the same time, I was kind of like finished my first year and I was going to just leave and travel because nothing was giving me joy, right? I was like, and then the one art teacher said, Corey, aren't you going to try for art school? And I said, I don't really know. I get the lowest marks from you. And he said, that's because I'm pushing you. You're really good, but I'm pushing you, you know? So that was the first time I understood about that resilience. So he said, I'll sit with you and work through a portfolio, and you should really try to go. So sometimes you have no idea. Like then I believe my higher power brought him into my moment, my life, and we sat and we created this application and I got in. I didn't have this like burning desire, but it was the only thing that I kind of liked in university was playing with color. Then it turns out I'm in there and all of a sudden people are listening to how I talk. And two of my professors said, you know, Corey, you'll do fine here. You're going to graduate fine. And in fact, I graduated almost top of my class, but I didn't care about the art. I cared about what's people were putting out. I kept seeing, you know, oh my gosh, I can see you're changing and you're painting. I would talk like that. And so the professor said, Corey, you have to study art therapy. You have to study. I didn't even know what that was. So that's what is beautiful. You don't even have to know. Life will just take you. You know, when you went to take the film studio, you didn't know you're going to have this joy of making short films. I love short films. I'd like to see some of your short films. So, you know, it's so wonderful because every learning becomes a wisdom piece and it will come into us somehow and we'll be able to share it somehow, some way. It's really all by design.
Okay, so for the last question, tell us about your book, Life in Full Colors. What is the book is all about?
Oh, yes. This book came all about because people started to realize how simple this process I was teaching them. Maybe they were in workshops or they were working with me one-on-one and they'd say, Corey, you should just write this in a book that people could have these tools. We never learned this in school, how to take heavy, basically the essence of this book is, it's called Life in Full Colors, unlock your childlike curiosity to uncover and activate the creative intelligence you are. And creative intelligence is just my way of saying higher power. But you know, in this book are 7 transformative tools that I teach people how to leverage and take those things, the challenges, as your ultimate art material. So like we were saying, instead of running away from those things, you grab them. And there's 7 steps that I teach for people so that they can own their challenges. They can learn how to ask on their challenges, to receive from their challenges, to actually come to love and expect challenges and learn to share and act on their information they receive. But it's not just a book you read. In there, I give you so many chances to see how creative you are. And so you can take your colors and you can, you know, as I'm sharing something, I'll say, okay, let's go. We're going to color in. And at the end of each step, I give something called a creative spark. Because it's one thing to read a book, it only gets into the thinking mind, but we actually have a whole mind. We have the thinking mind, which is linear, logical. It keeps track of time. It's really good at organizing, but it also doesn't have wonder. It doesn't have childlike play. That's in here. That's in the feeling mind. So this book lets you get both going. And then when you integrate them and you start to actually move your colors, your own colors, you can realize that, wow, I have so much more of me I did not see. So people are having so much fun with this book. It's actually even a colorful book. You can see, Dr. Moshen, I'm very Canadian. It's got a tree.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite an experience, this book. And the biggest gift with this book is that not only will you lift yourself and see how creative and powerful you are, because every human is a creator. We're creating at the level of thought all the time. If we learn to choose our thoughts, we can choose a much more colorful path. And all the net proceeds of this book, I'm donating to the Vancouver Island Community Counseling Center for Immigrants and Refugees, because I come from a refugee family, and then I've lived 25 years overseas. by choice, right? And so when I listen to your story, Dr. Moshe, and I'm even more happy that I'm supporting this nonprofit with this book, because it is such a challenge to move to a new land and to be to not be knocked down and to feel supported. It's so important. And so I found out that the counseling center is starting to use art therapy to help, because often people are coming from traumatized situation or low socioeconomic situation or just struggle, and then to come somewhere new and struggle again. It's a lot on the system. So we need to lift each other up and support each other. So it's really beautiful. I'm really honoring your journey and your whole story. And it's not ended, right? You have
No,
more.
it's not that, no.
You have lots more to tell.
Yeah, yes. That's actually
Yes.
the list of problem of the immigrant is maybe the people cannot pronounce your name. So first name or last name, it's a list of problems. So I get a lot about this. And even today, I didn't want to interrupt you, but my name is Dr. Mohsen, not Moshen.
Oh,
So
but hey, thank you for thank you for setting that. Everybody, Mohsen,
yes,
Mohsen,
that's
beautiful.
right. That's
Well, I totally understand, because my name was before I was married, my name was Rapajic, which is a Serbian name, which nobody could say. So when I married my husband, I took Mcdonald, because everybody knows McDonald's.
Yeah, that's true.
Mohsen,
Yes,
thank you, dear.
okay,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
just one of like myriad, so many things that are challenges, but you're facing them all. And I really, honestly, I watch so many. I've even me going through changing countries every few years. We're doing it by choice, but even then it can be hard, and you can feel uprooted. That's why the forest, the trees, nature is so important to me, to remember that, what, the home is ultimately in here. If we find that peace, if we find that power, yeah, life can bump. Sometimes I say it's like a 4x4 driving. It can be rough, but we can find that place inside. And that's the most important thing for all of us, especially now with COVID, that we don't know what's going to happen, and we're separated from families, and there's a lot of challenges going on. But if we can just turn in, breathe, quieten our mind, and come into our center and come home to ourselves, even just now and then through the day, this really helps us to remember the truth of who we are. And we are beautiful, creative, loved beings, and all of life does love us and support us. And if we take our eyes off of the busyness sometimes and just we can feel that nurturing hug from above and within us. So yeah, I'm really, really grateful to be here with you today.
I thank you very much to accept my invitation and come to my show. If I can send you some of the short movie that you can look at it if you like.
I would love that. I would love that. And I really encourage you to keep creating them, because I can feel when you were sharing how much you enjoyed it. It's like when somebody loves cooking and they cook for you, the food is so good. So I'm excited to see you in your creations. Thank you for doing that. It's important work.
Thank you very much.